Good evening and welcome to the March 14th meeting of the Board of School Trustees for Fort Wayne Community Schools. We'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with our roll call.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Julie Hollingsworth, District 1.
Jennifer Mathias, District 2.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Raleigh Booker, 4th District.
Noah Smith, 3rd District.
And I'm Ann Duff, Member at Large, and to my left is Andy Rosine, our clerk of the board this evening, filling in for Angela Filler, and also Dr. Daniel, our superintendent. And we will begin with awards and recognition. And we have the Indiana High School Girls Wrestling State Finals for 21-22, and Jennifer's going to begin that one.
It is recommended that the board recognize Northside High School and Wayne High School for having two wrestlers who made it to the state championship. The Indiana High School Girls Wrestling, the IHSGW. Purpose is to promote girls wrestling in the state of Indiana and provide scholarship opportunities for talented female athletes. Freshman Kara Park was the first female wrestler from Northside High School to make it to the IHSGW state finals.
A lot of the coaches.
I've got a couple other ones.
We got one more too, though.
Oh, whoops, I can go there then. Okay. Kara Park is here from Northside, who is our student. Ethan Hershey, coach. Andrew Klein, athletic director, and Dave West, principal. Let me go on.
Yeah.
From Wayne High School, we have junior Denia Simpson.
Wait for their picture.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Denia, I'll get back to you in a second. Sorry about that. Congratulations, Kara. That's exciting. We'll go backwards. From Wayne High School, junior Denia Simpson placed second overall in her weight class. Denia is from Wayne High School, and she's here with Lucas Fisher, who's the coach, Gary Raber, athletic director, and John Hauser, principal.
Congratulations.
Okay, and moving on to celebrating Black excellence at Abbott Elementary. Maria.
Each year, our schools celebrate Black History Month in a variety of ways. In February of this year, Abbott Elementary School hosted celebrations and completed projects to honor Black leaders and contributors. In one special project, 5th grade students had the opportunity to interview district leaders at FWCS and learn more about their stories. The Celebrating Black Excellence at Abbott Elementary School video highlights that project.
Teacher here at Abbott Elementary, and this is my 7th year here at Abbott and in the district. Every year here at Abbott, the past couple of years, we do a door decorating contest for Black History Month, and we take time to learn in our classrooms about different famous Black Americans or people that are famous from history. And we were doing that within our classroom this year, and we kind of got at a standstill, and we were wanting something different. We were wanting something more, and it may have been me wanting more than the students wanting more, but we needed something else. And so we came up with the idea that we didn't want to just research and find out about people that have contributed to Black history from the past that we aren't necessarily connected to every day, but we wanted to find a connection within our own community. And so we decided to reach out and invite people that have exemplified Black excellence within our community, our FWCS community, our Abbott community, and have the kids talk to them and find out more information and be inspired and see that just like these people in our community that we are connected to, they can also be excellent. I definitely think that the students are really engaged in this project. They have been involved with us pretty much every step of the way. They are interested, and some of them are excited to interview one person in particular more than others, but they have started to find research. And if there wasn't research on a person yet that was interested in participating, we tried to use social media or other ways to find out information so that the students could become experts on these individuals before we interviewed them, and just to kind of give them more of a backstory and connection to the individuals that have participated. So I love seeing the excitement in the kids. I love to see that they're excited about learning about individuals that look like them, that come from similar backgrounds as them. They can see themselves within. So it is really exciting to watch. If I think of a hashtag, I would probably think of representation matters. One of the 5th grade classrooms, their door decorations feature different cartoon characters that resembled themselves. And I think that we have definitely accomplished students seeing that representation of themselves within our community and them understanding why it matters, and them tapping into that, those feelings that come along with that, that pride that comes along with seeing someone that looks like you being excellent. I feel like we've kind of accomplished that goal. But we want to be able to recognize the people, kind of give them their flowers, you know, and tell them that we are proud of them for achieving their excellence. We plan to make, in partnership with FWCS's print shop, a magazine that we can gift to all the participants as well as all of our 5th grade students as a keepsake of their learning that they partook in Black History Month in 5th grade. In ending Black History Month and it coming to a close quickly, we want to remind our students that Black history is not just made in February, and we want to continue to show our students and discover excellence within our community. So keep being excellent, continue to help our students with their learning.
Black history is being made in Abbott. Don't you mess with the wolf, 'cause you get the whole wolf pack, and if you challenge a wolf, expect the whole wolf pack. So get ready, we're coming, we're Abbott Wolf Pack. And in every situation, we got our wolf packs back. Oh!
That was awesome. I loved the current relevant people they chose to interview too. That was nice to see those faces in that video. Moving on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda is our minutes from our February 28th meeting, vouchers and payroll, and our personnel report. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Dr. Daniel, is there anything on the personnel report that you wanted to mention?
Absolutely. So at this time, I'd like to announce that you have just approved naming our current Southside High School principal, Adam Swinford, as the next Northrop High School principal, effective July 1st, and Adam's here in attendance. Mr. Swinford joined FWCS in 1998 as a substitute teacher. In 2000, he was hired as a physical education teacher at Indian Village Elementary, and a year later moved to then Geyer Middle School, now Tolles Intermediate School. In 2005, he became the athletic director at Wayne High School, and in 2008, he moved to Northwood Middle School as the assistant principal and took over as principal the following year. In 2013, he was named principal of Miami Middle School, and then in 2018, he took over at Southside. Very pleased to have Adam Swinford as our new Northrop High School principal. He follows Barb Allersmeyer, who came out of retirement and has served as principal for this year. We have no replacement just yet at Southside, but we are working on that. And again, looking for a consistent leader at Northrop. Adam, you are the person, and I think you're going to stay here for a few years. We don't see you moving from the spot, unless, of course, you happen to become a superintendent or something. But anyway. No, thank you. But with that said, we're very pleased. So again, welcome, Adam.
Looking forward to your leadership at Northrop. Okay, we'll move on then to our new business, Perkins Assessment Grant. It is recommended that the board approve the application for an acceptance of the 2021-2022 Perkins 5 Assessment Grant in the amount of $16,400 for the FWCS Career Academy from Indiana Governor's Workforce Cabinet Office of Career and Technical Education. The Perkins Assessment Grant uses a distribution formula to reimburse the Fort Wayne Community Schools Career Academy for state-recognized industry certification assessments that connect with Career Academy programs. These assessments can be used as a qualifier of the graduation pathway requirements. This grant takes the place of the assessment funding that was provided by the Office in Career Technical Education through Perkins 5. This non-competitive grant supports industry certification assessments for career and technical education students. FWCS is the fiscal agent for these funds, and there is no requirement to match the grant with local funds. The grant is written by Jesse Webb, Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14, along with Sandra Adams, Assistant Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14. And Mr. Webb will be available to answer any questions. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Raleigh. And do we have any questions for Mr. Webb?
I have a couple. Go ahead. Hey, Jesse, just out of curiosity, about roughly what percentage of our career center students earn a certification?
Probably about 85 to 90%.
Awesome. And does $16,400 cover the cost of all those certification tests for a year?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
We spend about $40,000 a year on certification assessments.
Okay. Great. Well, money well spent, nonetheless.
Yes, very much.
Not a question, but just a comment. About a month ago, we toured one of the local businesses. Superintendent Daniel was with us, Jesse Webb there too, Ottenweller Fabricators, and had a great visit and ran into Mike Ottenweller a couple of days ago, and he said Jesse led a contingent of about 15, 16 students that toured, and some of them actually completed job applications. So we know it's a great place to work, a lot of opportunity there, and just another example of working with our local businesses. So Jesse, thanks for that.
Thank you. We have one junior that will do a summer internship, hopefully lead into work-based learning his senior year. And then we had, I believe, 5 current seniors that applied.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
And I usually don't ask questions, but I'm going to ask this one today. Just because this was asked when we had a consortium meeting, and you were part of that consortium meeting. You heard it about certifications or credentialing. And does that follow the 60 by 25, 60% of our adult population having some type of credential post-high school? Would you say our students who are graduating with the credentials that they're receiving, would that be recognized as a credential post-secondary?
Yes, the state industry recognized certifications are part of that, along with dual credits that we offer at all of our programs.
So that's an answer we could give to that particular gentleman who asked that question. And again, that's the importance of where we're heading, how to have pathways that lead to credentials. So you graduate from Fort Wayne Community Schools High School with a credential, whether it expands into a 2-year or 4-year post-secondary institution or further apprenticeship work or what have you. But again, more and more of this. And as a state, our goal is 60%. I believe there are some people who are talking about how to elevate that even more. But again, we're well underway, and we appreciate all the work you do in that space.
Thank you.
Can you, if I go to Anthus and get certified, can you tell us some of the things I might be able to do afterwards? Like, what am I certified in? What could I be certified in?
Depends on what program you want to go into. All of our programs have some type of state industry recognized certification except for dental right now. But a CNA can go work at any long-term care facility, also working on positions with Parkview as a patient care tech in those positions. Construction trades has a number of different business and industry recognized certifications. Cosmetology, after 2 years, you can be fully licensed to run your own salon. Those are just to name a few. With graphic design, you have any Adobe certification that you want to kind of lead into a career there. This coming May 17th, we will hold our 3rd annual signing day, and we'll have about 50 students that will sign full-time jobs following graduation. So I like to use what Dr. Robbins says is the Monday after graduation, what are your students doing? So that's kind of our push right now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Will this money go towards any specific certifications or just the general program as a whole?
Just general, whichever ones come first. So we usually pay for the first 2 opportunities if it takes 2 opportunities. And then when a student gets to their 3rd opportunity, if they need to, we still pay a majority of that certification attempt, but we do have them put a little skin in the game just because it's their 3rd attempt.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, commercial lease or
We
commercial?
vote.
Oh, sorry, just to vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Steve, B, commercial office lease for Fort Community Schools.
It is recommended we approve a 1-year lease with the Bridgepoint LLC for space at 1300 South Clinton Street in the amount of $183,216. The space includes about 11,451 square feet. It will be used by staff of our virtual academy for the forthcoming school year. There are 26 staff members employed through the virtual academy. They're located right now at Wayne High School and various elementary schools. There's about 300 students enrolled in the program. With upcoming construction at Wayne High School, it becomes necessary to relocate staff to one location, which will allow for greater collaboration. The rent for the facility is based on $16 per square foot, and that includes utilities, custodial, grounds maintenance, and 30 parking spaces. This location is only available for a year, as the new tenant will be moving in next year. We'll figure out where they go. 1300 is actually across the street. It's the old Lincoln building. Oh, the old new Lincoln building.
Thank you, Steve.
Darren Hess here is Director of Facilities, and Kara Froning, Secondary Director, is also available to answer any of our questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve.
Thank you, Noah.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have any questions?
I got a couple. Kara, is 300 the current number or what we started with or where we're at? Or you give us a little update on where we're at?
We started about 300, we're at 247 students as of today.
Okay.
That's K through 12.
And this will put everybody in the same space, or now they're spread out?
Right, so we're spread between Harris, Washington Center, Holland. We have one teacher at Holland, and the rest, John Hauser welcomed us to Wayne this year. We have three or four spaces up there that we've divided between staff members, and then an area where Mr. Brown, the 260 assistant principal that's in charge of the program, his office is there. We have a counselor, Mr. Lockman, and we have a full-time secretary treasurer, instructional coach, in addition to our teaching staff. And we have.
Okay. Are you taking applications for next year now, or when's that?
Student applications through the lottery? Yes, though they would be late applications at this point. We did already go through the lottery for those students. We did have applications for students for next year for new students, in addition to our current enrollment.
How much do you project in next year for enrollment based on that?
We looked at increasing our class size from where we are currently to about 27 or 28 per grade level at the secondary level. Mr. Key has been in charge of the elementary, so I'm not sure of specific numbers of where they were taking those students.
Do you project we'll have more than 300 though next year, or less, or about the same?
Probably about the same, probably about the same. We have 21 seniors graduating this year.
Of the current student enrollment, what would you say, or roughly an estimate that are students who came from outside the district this year?
I don't know the percentage. I know specific stories from families. We have at least one family outside of the county, another that chose public versus private in the situation. So there's lots of different special circumstances. I'm not sure the percentage, but I do know that we reached far and wide for some of our families that had unique needs.
So in this new space, will every teacher have their own individual classroom?
So what's great about this space when we toured it, each teacher will have their own individual little office that is soundproof. So what we found at Wayne is with even the best technology, depending on how loud the teacher is next to you, you can still hear some of the other instruction going on. And so kids ignore those type of things typically, but as an adult, I even recognized it. And so when we go to this space, every teacher will have their own space to conduct class, and then they'll have a common collaboration space out in the middle. And one of the benefits to that, we see, state assessments and some of the requirements for our students, we have to find space in the district to do that. We'll be able to do most of that there, bring our families to one space. If families need materials, help with technology, we'll be right there centrally located where they can access us and staff. So it's a perfect space for this.
Of the 26 staff members, how many are teachers?
So we have one teacher in each grade K through 5. And then we have 2 middle school teachers currently. One teaches language arts, social studies, the other science and math. So that's a big load for those teachers. So we did increase our middle school allocation next year to 3 teachers. We have 3 specials that are K-12, so art, music, and PE. And then in high school, we have the basic ELA, science, social studies, math, and then we have a business teacher who is in charge of our college and career pathway and our business pathway for students to graduate. And that was something, thankfully, he's licensed in many areas that assist us there. We have an instructional coach, 6 through 12 right now, and then we're hiring, once we all get to one space, a K through 5 instructional coach. Our elementary teachers out in buildings have been utilizing those instructional coaches to help them, so we'll have one instructional coach K-5 and one 6-12.
So the ratio...
And I forgot special ed, I'm sorry. Special ed, ELL.
So the ratio of teachers to students is fairly low.
It is.
Are we where we want to be with that?
Last year when we set enrollment, we set most of our enrollment at about 27 students per class. So we're a little under that now based on some withdrawals, but that's where we hope to get back up to.
Is that something we're selling the program on? I mean,
Small class size?
That the class sizes are smaller.
I think so, and I think students have even recognized that. I surveyed students later this fall, just why did you choose Fort Wayne Virtual Academy? More personalized environment were some of the options. Obviously, some had to do with the pandemic. Some insisted to their parents that was going to be the best learning environment for them, and they had to kind of prove it to their parents. Parents chose that for their student, but gave their student the option to go back, and they chose to stay in their current enrollment. So I think it definitely is a benefit. Without going into too much detail, we do have something called a flex, and I'm speaking 6 to 12 now because that's primarily the program I work with right now, but we have a flex period that teachers really focus on individualizing instruction and trying to close some of those gaps because our virtual kids have similar gaps to our traditional school kids.
Is the school only available to students that live in our district?
No. They could anyone could apply in the surrounding counties or moving from private school. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What's our smallest class grouping?
I looked at that in elementary. I could cheat and look. It's one of our elementary classes, maybe second grade. I don't supervise that. It's on my notes on my phone. So our enrollment by grade level, kindergarten we have 18, first grade we have 18, second grade's our low one with 12, 21 third grade, 20 in fourth grade, 22 fifth grade, 19 in sixth, 19 in seventh, 21 in eighth, 16 in ninth, 18 in 10th, 23 in 11, and 20 instead of 21, 20 12th graders. So it's 247 kids. So for example, for our senior class next year, I think we ended up taking about 7 kids in the lottery.
So I'm assuming this space, should we grow some, we still have some room over there to potentially have more teachers or more staff?
Right.
Should the virtual school have some kind of growth enrollment?
Yeah, there's definitely room to grow there if we would stay there. One of the biggest positives is not only the room for growth, but that collaboration. So we're trying to figure out some ways too this spring to get all those teachers together, K through 12, because they will be in the same space next year.
Can you talk about the benefits of a third grader collaborating with a junior teacher?
Well, when we talk about our ideal graduate, I mean, and what we've been really focusing on this year, literacy and numeracy, and some of the basic skills that our kids still need help with. I think that collaboration in that space of what are third grade teachers, because right now, I can speak from a secondary perspective. As a high school teacher, you don't always have that conversation with an elementary teacher of what's the best way to teach a kid to read. You know, I have a 9th grader, they don't know how to read. What do I do? So the instructional coach and that collaborative conversation, I think, will benefit the teachers and the students both in a way that we don't have anywhere else really in the district. Tolles is probably the closest with our 1 through 8 program that we have there.
Anything else? Right. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Julie, the Career Academy Automotive Paint Booth Replacement Project.
Okay. It's recommended that the board approve the following equipment purchase for the new paint booth at the Fort Wayne Community School Career Academy Automotive Center. And Ultra Products, Inc. is the company, and the paint booth and then the drying and curing system for a total contract of $151,183. Project includes replacement of the existing paint booth at the Anthus Automotive Center. The equipment is proprietary, and Ultra Products, Inc. is a single-source vendor for this work. Funding for the project will be from the Perkins Grant. And Director of Facilities, Darren Hess, is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
You move for approval?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Darren? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Jennifer, elevator modernization projects.
It is recommended that the board approve the following construction contract for the modernization of elevators at Memorial Park Middle School, Southside High School, and the Helen P. Brown, Natatorium. TK Elevator Corporation, there's base bids for Memorial and Southside and the Natatorium, all in total $745,956.12. TK Elevator is the sole source provider for modernization of Dover-style elevators that are currently installed in these buildings. Indiana law does not require bidding for purchases made from sole source providers. Funding for the project will be from the 2020 School Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project funds. The work will be completed in phases and is anticipated to be substantially completed by August 2022. And Darren Hess is here to answer questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve.
Thank you, Noah.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. Any questions for Darren?
Darren, did this project come in on budget?
Yeah, roughly on budget. It's a little bit lower because these are 6 elevators that, or 5 elevators that are more retrofits than a complete gut of the existing system.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
So to remodel an elevator is about 150 grand?
Depending on how many stops it has, yeah. That's redoing all of the mechanicals, the hoistway, cables, the computer system, all the life safety devices, and then doing a refurbishment of the cab itself, the new panels.
Are these usually 2 or 3 stop elevators?
There's 3 and 2 stops in these.
School Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project Funds, is that referendum dollars? Or?
Yeah, that's the third phase, the referendum 2020.
So that was your lost job savings or cost savings in the prior referendums that allow us to do these?
No, this is separate funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you, Darren. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Maria, Forest Park Elementary Inclusive Playground Project.
It is recommended that the board approve the following contract for the Forest Park Elementary Inclusive Playground Project. The contract goes to Snyder Recreation for a total contract of $150,000. This project includes supplying and installing an inclusive playground structure at Forest Park Elementary School. This recommendation is funded from a combination of the Operations Fund and PTA donations. Projects funded from the Operations Fund are identified in the capital projects plan. Specifications require the work to be completed by August 1st of 2020, and Darren Hess is here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maria. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I move approval.
Thank you, Raleigh.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. Any questions for Darren? I'm just curious how much the PTA raised versus Operations Fund.
Yeah, so the breakout for the Foreign Community Schools portion for the Operations Fund to assist in the safety servicing was $20,000, and the remaining $130,000 was raised by the PTA at Forest Park.
Wow, that's awesome.
Are new playgrounds usually parent-led sort of projects?
Yes, they are. In a lot of funds and grants are out there, but they have to be chased, and the PTAs typically take that on as one of their roles if they choose to. We assist, like on this one, where if we know in advance, then we'll put up matching dollars to help out, to defray some of the costs to pay for the safety surfacing, and not the structure itself.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between an inclusive playground versus a standard playground?
Sure. A standard playground still has requirements that is ADA accessible, but it could just meet the minimum requirements, which could be just a transfer station, where an inclusive not is only for children with physical disabilities, but also hearing and sight. There's different elements that is incorporated with the structure that it goes beyond what the minimum ADA requirements require.
Anything else?
I got to tour Forest Park last year, and I think this will be a great addition to their facilities there, and kudos to them for raising so much money. That's really exciting.
It's pretty amazing.
A challenge to our other elementary schools, maybe, huh?
Thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Raleigh, renovation of Wayne High School.
It is recommended that the board approve a contract amendment with Hagerman, Inc. as part of the construction manager as constructor CMC contract for the renovations of Wayne High School, previously approved on March 22nd, 2021. So it is recommended that the board approve the following construction contract for temperature controls at Wayne High School, Hagerman, Inc. With Hagerman, Inc., the amendment amount is $46,213,979 for an amended contract amount of $49,978,201. It is also recommended that the board approve the following construction contract with Automated Logic for asbestos abatement at Wayne High School. Contract amount is $1,657,968. And, yeah, I think that's it. The renovation project at Wayne High School consists of architectural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical renovations. The contract procurement method of this project is with the manager of constructor, CMC, for publicly funded projects. The initial contract was for architectural and engineering services. This amendment package establishes the final overall guaranteed maximum price for the Wayne High School project. It will be funded from a combination of elementary and secondary school emergency relief, 2020 school basic renewal restoration, and safety project and food service funds. Project specifications require the work to be completed by July 30th, 2024.
It continues to there.
And the existing building automation systems controls are proprietary, and Automated Logic is the single source vendor for this work. The scope of work and request for proposal for the asbestos abatement package were developed by ACM Engineering and Environmental Services, who will oversee the abatement process. 4 proposals were received, and Star Environmental, Inc. provided the best overall proposal for that project, and that contract amount is $469,000. Both the building automation and asbestos abatement packages will be funded from elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding. Director of Facilities, Darren Hess, is here to answer questions.
Thank you, Raleigh. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jennifer. And do we have any questions for Darren?
I do. With respect to the asbestos project, why disparity on the numbers there? Have we done business with Star before?
This is the first time with Star. We did check their references. They do quite a bit of work with a lot of the universities, but not necessarily K-12. It doesn't surprise us because of this is a multi-phase project through 2024, so I think they have 13 mobilization and demobilizations off and on the site. And a lot of times with asbestos abatement, you have just as much money in setting up the project with the containment than you do with the tear down and the actual abatement itself. We had, so this was lower than our estimate, so we're okay with that, but we did check them and they're comfortable with their number as well.
Okay. So they're okay with their number. It's what, $1.8 million less than the high bid,
Correct.
Which may have been.
And the other oddball with this one, this is using ESSER funds, which requires Davis-Bacon Act funding, wages.
Oh.
And that's typically in that industry not used. So I think that also played into some of like that high bid of just uncertainty of how much they need to include for that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Noah, the School Resource Officer Program.
It is recommended the board approve the agreement between the Fort Wayne Police Department and FWPD and FWCS for the purpose of continuing the School Resource Officer SRO program for the 2022 calendar year. Fort Wayne Community School Resource Officer Program began 1999 to 2000 school year with a pilot program at Snyder, funded initially by the COPS federal grant. The grant expired in 2004, and the program then was funded entirely by the FWPD. In 2006, FWCS and FWPD entered into a cost-sharing contract, which provides 6 certified SROs. The 2022 contract total is $164,100, and we paid in 3 payments of $54,700. This program assigns a full-time trained police officer at the following middle schools: Jefferson, Keekanga, Lakeside, Memorial Park, Northwood, and Portage. At the discretion of FWPD, and FWCS, SROs may be assigned to any FWCS school. Questions will be answered by Mike Manuel, Director of Security. Lots of acronyms there.
Thank you, Noah. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I'll move we approve.
Second.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Mike?
Mike, I've subbed at Lane a couple times last month or so, and I noticed Allen County Sheriff officers there, Officer Stephen Fuchs, which has been very helpful. Is that outside of this agreement or program, or?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. He's hired by the district as an SRO. He's actually part of the grant that you guys approved earlier this year, the Indiana Department of Homeland Security grant. Some of his salary is paid through that.
Okay.
So how many SROs then do we have in total?
In total, you have this 6. We have a SRO on ESSER, and we have the one from IDSA. It's a total of 9.
9.
9. No.
Well, I can tell you that Lane Officer Fuchs has been very helpful, and I'm sure most of the rest of them are too, and greatly appreciated.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, application for a common school fund loan. It is recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of an advancement from the Indiana Common School Fund, CSF, for educational technology equipment in the amount of $2 million. Advancement from the Common School Fund provide funds for school districts to purchase educational technology. FWCS will use these monies to help fund the technology plan previously submitted to the state. Technology funds are currently insufficient to fund all the technology needs of the school corporation. Funds are provided as a loan and are awarded to school corporations on the basis of assessed value per pupil, with low assessed value per pupil corporations receiving funds before high AV per pupil corporations. FWCS therefore cannot be assured of receiving the requested advancement. Should the application be successful, funds will be budgeted in the debt service fund to repay this loan beginning in the year 2024. Interest on the loan is expected to be no more than 4% and is likely to be as low as 1%. Common School Fund advancements differ from School Technology Advancements Account STAA loans, which Fortin Community Schools receives on an annual basis. Unlike CSF advancements, STAA advancements are given to all applying school corporations regardless of their assessed value per pupil ranking. Chief Systems Officer Jack Bird will be available to answer any questions. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Raleigh. Any questions for Jack? Okay, seeing there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And first semester extracurricular account reports for 21-22. It is recommended that the board accept the extracurricular account reports for the first semester of the 2021-22 school year. Indiana Code 2041-18 requires an accurate account of all money received and expended by extracurricular accounts. A report of the sources of all receipts, the purposes for which the money was expended, and the balance on hand is required to be filed with the School Board of Trustees. All extracurricular semester reports were audited by the business office. The general ledger summary report of each school's accounts is provided. All extracurricular records are maintained for 10 years and are available for inspection. Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend will be available to answer questions. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So
Move
moved.
it. Second.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Noah. Any questions for Kathy? Okay, seeing there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now we will have what we've all been waiting for, a legislative report from Justin Swanson. Justin is from Bo's Public Affairs Group, and he will be giving a legislative report presentation and what we need to know. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Justin Swanson with Bo's Public Affairs Group. I've had the pleasure of working with Fort Wayne Community Schools, I believe, since 2015. So we've come a long way in terms of, I think, getting our message across in terms of the needs that we have to serve the students in our hallways. Made a lot of progress this year on that, and I'll go through this PowerPoint. I don't intend to really spend a whole lot of time on the PowerPoint, but really be interested in comments or questions from you all as we really have already started preparing for the 2023 budget session, which is, have a lot more at stake than these short sessions do. So just a quick roadmap on today. Want to just go through our session deadlines, give you a picture of how session went, along there because the deadlines play a crucial role in legislation moving through the process. A quick update on IUSA's legislative priorities. Background on that, that's the Indiana Urban Schools Association, of which Fort Wayne Community Schools is a member. I think we're up about 35 school districts across the state, and that really helps amplify our common needs of the types of students we serve in our hallways. And real quick, again, just go over some of the bills of interest. I'm sure you guys are well aware of what's passed and what hasn't at this point. Again, want to spend more time on discussing what we can do to start preparing for the 2023 session. Kind of hard to see, but our first day of session was January 4th this year. Going into session, we had a lot of uncertainty still surrounding kind of whether we're going to have COVID protocols in place. If you recall, during the 2021 budget year, the House members of interest, 1093. This assigned the letter grade null for school corporations, and this is, I think, the third or fourth year we've done that, maybe more. Probably most interesting and hopeful, I think, is expands and modifies the Early Learning Advisory Committee. So this is really looking at how can the state embrace pre-K programs, support school corporations, and making sure they have the resources needed to provide those services. right? Because it's not just about providing the service, it's about making sure you have kind of the wraparound services as well, so it makes sense for the parents you guys are serving. And also, towards the end of the session, these discussions on what counts as a school day popped up. And as a result of those conversations, they limit asynchronous learning to 3 school days. If you have synchronous 50% or more of the time, there is no limit, but there is a concern, I think, in the data shows that students really weren't learning just outside of the classroom during COVID on Zoom. So I think that's a lot where a lot of that came from. We tried to get a little increase in that number. Didn't get a whole lot of positive feedback on that. There is a process in place too that we can go, the schools can go and ask for a waiver for DOE for extraordinary circumstances. And I do have a mistake on that my last bullet point there is actually not included in the conference committee report. I misread it and it said it removed it and I missed that. So that's not part of the bill that passed. Senate Rolled Act 2, this is really making sure that schools have consistent funding as they're going in and out due to COVID protocols. So this is a recognition again from I think the Senate and House members that we do need consistency in the funding that we're provided when we're providing the expectations of the services. Sorry. 82 was a bill, or sorry. 145, so I mentioned the property tax cut bill at the beginning. This is also a tax assessment issue that's been around in the state for probably about 10 years. And it's the dark box assessment issue that, again, directly impacts local units like school boards. So this actually provides some certainty on how those basically empty Myers or Kohl's or whatever, name your big box retailer, how those are actually assessed at the local level. There was legal arguments being made that you should be fully operating one should be compared to a non-functioning one out of state, and this really helps narrow down the playing field for the tax lawyers and making sure that folks are paying their fair share. So this is a big win again, just in terms of the consistency at the local level. And this really wasn't an issue in Allen County, but mainly in Northwest Indiana, it's become a really big issue with a lot of the schools being really negatively impacted by that. Senate Rolled 82, this is a bill that's been around again for a very long time and finally got done. It's a watered down version of requiring every student to fill out a FAFSA. I think I haven't mentioned they're ranked 30th out of 51, including DC, in terms of student completing that. So this is their effort to make sure we can get that number up a little bit. Open meetings, Senate Rolled Act 83. This is probably the only education kind of transparency piece that ended up passing this session. Again, response to what was happening around the state in terms of how some school boards were interacting or not interacting with the general public. This just makes sure that school boards allow for comment before final action is taken on a certain topic. And then it has some requirements on when you can do virtual meetings. Basically, it's natural disasters or imminent risk to public health or safety. Related to 83 is House Enrolled Act 1130. Again, this dealt with the transparency issue and sets parameters around how school boards function around the state. I don't think there's really anything groundbreaking or talked pretty closely with David on this stuff. I don't think you guys are going to have much to change, if anything, in how you guys operate. So again, this is a symptom of one bad actor or apple, however you want to phrase it, kind of impacting how everyone across the state operates.
Hey, Justin, back
Yes.
to 83.
Yes.
You said the school board has to allow comment before takes final action on the topic. Which topics are included in that? Anything?
So that's a question that we need to.
Outline?
Yeah, we need to kind of drill down to that a little bit. It's not too specific on that, but I think that's something David, myself, and you guys we can kind of work on to fine tune what that actually looks like. 1192. This was essentially a cleanup bill from 2021. If you recall, I talked about some of the COVID protocols the General Assembly was operating under.
where people weren't in the same building and we weren't used to operating that way as a system or a body. So this is a cleanup from last year, but what this does is it allows FSSA to submit a Medicaid plan amendment, which will in turn allow schools to get reimbursed for the services you're already providing to students. And this will be a big win for schools like Fort Wayne Community Schools that are, again, providing this service but are being left out of the opportunity to be reimbursed at the federal level. So there's no cost to the state to this. It is kind of confusing for lawmakers and frankly myself as well, but other states are doing this around this, and we're essentially leaving federal money on the table. And so the next steps with this, I know I've worked with Charles a little bit on this bill. The next step with this is actually getting FSSA and DOE together and showing that the schools do in fact want this, to make sure they do actually submit that plan amendment. So this is not a done deal yet. There are some steps with state agencies we need to take to ensure that crosses the finish line. And this was also an IUSA initiative as well. Then real quick, I'll run down on the dead bills. House Bill 1040, Education Matters. It's tough to keep up with just the titles because they're not very descriptive, but Representative Prescott brought this and they had a hearing on it, and it was this idea of requiring board members to identify a political party when they're running. They did have a hearing on it, and I think there's between 20 and 25 people show up. There was not a single person in favor that showed up to testify. They ended up holding the bill, and we never saw or heard from it again. I fully anticipate a lot of these ideas that did not pass the finish line this year to resurface next year. So we can't let our guard down yet, but I think some of our messaging did work on this. House Bill 1072, school referendum levies. Again, doesn't directly impact Fort Wayne Community Schools, but I think it shows kind of where the House is going in terms of their philosophy of funding education moving forward. And this would have required schools to share their referendum dollars with charter schools. And so that's kind of the first time where you see the philosophy of the charter schools don't have access to property tax dollars. And now this is kind of the first iteration of, I think, that effort to give access to charter schools to property tax dollars. And again, probably not the last time we see this. This did pass the House, so there is support for it in that chamber. It did not receive a hearing in the Senate, though. I think the chairman saw this really more as a budget issue and didn't want to mess with it in a short session. House Bill 1134, I know you guys are intimately aware of this. We had a number of school board members come down throughout session to make your voice heard, which I think was very effective. You guys did it in a calm, collected manner and came with stats and facts, I think, that really helped steer the conversation the right way. 1134 did pass out. This was what was deemed a transparency bill. Was, passed out of the House, passed out of the Senate committee, and then died on second reading. And ultimately what happened is the bill from my perspective, got into such a shape where it didn't satisfy the original supporters of the bill, and so they didn't think it went far enough, and still the folks that were lukewarm on it didn't really see a need for the bill anymore after it got watered down. This was kind of ground zero for a lot of legislators, so again, I anticipate some of these concepts to pop back up in some form or fashion next year. 1107, worked closely with David on this as well. This dealt with special education in particular, would have prohibited schools from using non-disclosure agreements, non-disparage agreements as well, and settlement conferences, and also would have flipped the burden on schools to show that they were in fact not doing anything wrong, rather than the parent coming with kind of discernible facts or complaints on what was happening or not happening. This bill passed the House, ended up dying in the Senate, 0 to 50 actually, and I think that was probably the first time a bill has ever died with that score. I think there's a number of things going into that in terms of personalities between the House and the Senate, and I do think it is a symptom that the House and the Senate are kind of drifting apart rather than drifting closer together on certain issues. House Bill 1369 is a good example of the conference committee process in the last 2 weeks of session. There was language in this bill in the conference committee report that got slipped in that dealt with this, same as Senate Bill 17, that got slipped into 1369. And that's this idea that we're going to take away the defense basically providing pornography to children in schools. We'll take that defense away. It is a level 6 felony, so it's a pretty significant policy shift. Another issue that's been around for a number of years. This, interestingly enough, this bill, this language actually passed both chambers at different times throughout session. But ultimately, this bill died on the Senate floor. I think it was probably the second to last bill of the session. So it was, again, this will probably get brought back up again next year, and something that we'll keep a close eye on. Senate Bill 167 was the mirror version of 1134 that died on the first half of session in the Senate. So again, I think we had a lot of successes, but also it kind of shows you where I think the House in general is looking at going in terms of education philosophy moving forward. You guys, anyone have any questions on any of those bills? I know it's kind of streaming through this.
Do you have any thoughts on how the 3-day requirement will impact us on the e-learning?
So we are discussing that right now. We have remote learning capability. So, however, we do have a question with the SAT because we did utilize for the high school an e-learning day, but the rest of the district was in full session. So does that count as a day? Does it not? So I think there's some clarifications. But again, we will move towards remote learning if we have to go to a 4th day, a 5th day. This year, I believe we have used 4 days of e-learning. So if we use this format, we would have to make up a day in either March or whatever those additional days at the end of the school. So we'll be talking with with FWA about this as well, but wanting to let us all know you only have 3 days. And so remote learning would be, or synchronous learning would be the next option. And then that's what we call remote learning. And then after that, the other option is you make up the day. So I vote remote learning personally. So.
And then these don't go into effect till July 1, is that right?
Yes, I'd have to go back and look specifically at that, but most of the times it's July 1st, yeah. So kind of, I've mentioned quite a bit of times the 2023 budget session because again, it's I think where we have the most impact in terms of where we head in the future. So we're already focused on what we're doing in terms of that. And if you remember from the 2021 budget year, IUSA worked with Policy Analytics to develop really an objective third-party look at what has happened to education funding for students in poverty in Indiana over the last couple budget cycles. And that really, that's a powerful tool during session if you can come with hard data because we're not relying on heartstrings or anything. Hey, this is just the facts. We plan on doing a deep dive again with Policy Analytics. We should have the report done sometime in early July, which gives us plenty of runway to then go socialize that with legislators and educate fiscal staff on what the findings of those report are, what the report is. And probably the most important thing that report's going to look at is one, I think we're one of 3 or 4 states that funds students in poverty the way we do, which is just based off of SNAP and TANF and foster care, basically. We think with the data that we have, the technology out there, there's a much better way to ensure we're capturing the students that we're serving. During the 2021 budget year, it came out that I think it was Wayne and Marion County had like 1,300 students that were missed in the complexity count. And that's just a miscommunication between databases between DOE and FSSA. And so one of our things is shouldn't the schools be able to verify the data there before it gets finalized, just like we do with, say, graduation rates. So this is a topic that I think the General Assembly really does want to solve. They just want to make sure they're making the right choice. And one way we can give them confidence is to have that third-party objective data show them what other states are doing and then how Indiana could potentially do it in a more efficient way. So, how do we prepare? Just kind of went over that. I can't remember because I slept since then, but I think you guys just did basically a curriculum overhaul on one of your areas. ELA. On ELA. So you guys did a great job of putting that out to the public, saying, parents, please come, give us feedback. My advice to you guys is you can't overshare enough. Make sure that our Indiana delegation, the legislators, know that what we're doing, push that out to them. And again, just we can invite them as many times as we can to events. We'll do another kind of pre-session review probably sometime in the fall to get them prepared on what we're working on. But again, my advice is you just can't overshare enough. And I know you guys do a great job of that in terms of your media blasts on Fridays that I get. But that's probably to oversimplify it, just overshare.
I'd like to know how we can do better. It seems that the in-person testimony with respect to board members running with a political affiliation, that there was very strong testimony, but I'd like to see how we can convince more parents and patrons to send an email to make a call. So, I mean, next year's going to be huge, right? It's a big session. So that's what I'd like to see.
In terms of trying to engage the community a bit more on that?
Yes.
Yeah, certainly, and that's kind of my message with the oversharing. Let's call them in. Let's have an open invitation to have that discussion.
And I think you need to be there because I think many people think that making that call, sending that email doesn't matter, that it's just going to be decided in the halls by legislators and lobbyists, and we don't count.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate to have that mindset because it's almost the exact opposite. Those guys, the legislators hear from people like me every day, but for somebody to take time out of their day, take time off work, miss dinner with the kids, if they come and actually show up and have that face-to-face conversation or take the time for that phone call or email, that's much more powerful than the message that I have, frankly. And they have I think people have a lot more power in the process if they're willing to see that.
And having you say that because you're there, I think makes an even greater impression on convincing people that they need to speak up.
Yeah, and doing it the right way, right? If you're asking, your parent for something, does it make sense to go in upset and assume where they are on an issue, or take it as an opportunity to really position yourself as a resource to the legislator to help them?
And I think one of the issues that a number of people wrestle with is, am I making a pest of myself? This is the 7th time Justin wants me to write or call, and I feel like I'm a pest.
So I have that feeling every day.
But you get paid to do that.
And to be fair, so do they, right? I mean, they're paid to be there to represent their district. And yeah, you can have that feeling, and maybe we can be pestering sometimes too much on an issue. But I'll tell you the number one thing that can make me ineffective immediately is if I go and talk to an area representative and the first thing they say to me is, well, I haven't heard from the board or the superintendent on that. That's the first thing they can say to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, right? So there's a way to do it in terms of communicating during session, but also communicate before session, right? Give them a heads up on, hey, these are some of the issues I'm watching. And then after session, hey, thanks for letting me bother you all session on these issues. For you guys, get a cup of coffee with them. Again, overshare, over-invite, and let's continue to build those relationships.
But wouldn't it be nice if you were talking to a legislator in Indianapolis and they said those words to you that we haven't heard from anybody, and all you would have to do would be to pick up your phone, dial one call, and in 15 minutes they would be bombarded with calls?
Yep, absolutely. And again, it's in terms of all that messaging being on the same page goes a long ways as well. So you have that unified voice.
What do you say to those people, though, that were, for example, sitting there for 11:34, that 300 people were sitting there and took time out of their days for the entire day, and then were not heard? And then were not even, when there's 90% of the people that were against, and it still moved forward. How do we continue to encourage those people when they're not seeing results?
So on that particular issue, right, I mean, there were results, right? They may not have had that opportunity and feel like their voice was heard, but even having the presence in the hallway, like I know Noah did, and a couple others, that goes a long ways. And whether they admit it or not, I mean, the bill disappeared and didn't make it across the finish line, I think, for that very reason. So I think it's more in terms of trying to almost shift the mindset of what participating in the process looks like and the expectations of that. Because look, if you don't show up and don't do the motions and go through and check the boxes, you already know the result, the end result. It's really more about redefining success and what that looks like.
Well, I think it's fairly important right now. We come off of that and everybody's working really hard and we're trying to get our, 5 other people to get out there and make the calls and such, but then you finish and you're like, but you're already on to the next session. And this is where I think, in my opinion, is it's the most important where we start reaching out to people right now so that, like Steve says, when it's that time and we say we have to hit the button now, then those people are ready to do what we need to be done to advocate for our school district. Is that how you see that? I mean, we have to keep building.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly, and that comes with the unified message. And look, there's some issues that we know are coming that we can prepare and prepare in advance for. But the reality too is a lot of this stuff's reactionary, right? We're reacting to what's being put in front of us. So we can't solve everything that way, but it certainly mitigates the legwork if you can kind of do that up front. Like for the funding session, we know complexity is going to be a huge issue for us. So we can work over this summer to, one, fine-tune our messaging, and two, really integrate the results in that policy analytics study, and what those recommendations may look like.
As you were speaking, I wrote down several questions, but I don't even need to ask them because you were very thorough and answered all my questions. So thank you for your presentation. But I did think of something. Where do you see ESA expansion coming up next session, or voucher expansion?
I do. I haven't heard anything kind of definitive, but I think there's going to be some seismic shifts coming out of the House budget. So how this process works, the House gets the first crack at what that budget looks like. And kind of, I think what we've seen is the House will go very far, and the Senate really is our only backstop in terms of making sure the funding makes sense. But yeah, absolutely, we had a huge increase in the 2021 session. We had a great year. In the private and charter schools had a great year as well. And that's why the messaging is so important, because if we go in there and tell them our needs are not being met, like in particular for special education funding, right? There's still a huge gap in terms of the services you guys provide and what the state provides. And our job is to help legislators understand that money comes from somewhere. So if you want more dollars in the classroom, then we need to kind of shore up some of these huge budget shortfalls we have with these mandated services. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's kind of the messaging that we focus on is these are the students we're serving, and here's what we need to serve them. Because I'll tell you, the days of fighting, I think legislators are tired of having the school advocates fight each other, right? And so if we can come in there with a positive message to say, here's what we're doing, here's what we need, that's a lot easier to get things done.
Do you have more slides?
I do not, no, sorry, that's it. Hopefully I didn't go over my time.
Justin, do you find that there are still many of our legislators who do not understand complexity funding?
Yes, there is, and that's our job to get out there and educate them. I think, again, last session was the first time we had a concerted effort to say, here's what we need, and here's kind of what the data is showing. I think the more and more we do that, the more obvious it's going to become to legislators that this isn't an issue that you can kind of just ignore. This is something you need to become educated on. And when you see those budget runs that first time, I want them looking at complexity and seeing what it does to a school like Fort Wayne Community Schools, because Kathy does a great job at this. I mean, you can say you're getting a huge increase, but at what expense, right? Are we just taking money out of the complexity and putting on foundation? That's kind of a big issue for us, and it's a very nuanced argument, but it matters. It makes a huge difference in terms of making sure the students are receiving the services they need.
I'm going to go sideways a little bit, but I'll come back to you. Sandra, I'm going to call on you. Any idea how much the biggest percentage pay raise throughout the state for teachers was this past year? We were at 4%.
Yeah, I can't say for around the state. I know that, I'm sure it's true everywhere, that urban schools don't do as well as suburban schools. And so we know that Northwest Allen, East Allen, Southwest Allen all got a lot more than we did. And so I would, if I was looking for who the largest benefactor was, I would look for a large suburban school to see what amount that would be, because they tend to get more.
I remember hearing like somewhere between 8 and 12 even.
Did you hear any
At one
statewide or
school board
Kathy, any?
meetings.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I guess my point is I feel very good about what we did. I felt like we took the dollars that they gave us and plowed it back into what they wanted.
Yep.
And here we sit with 7.9% inflation. So the raises we just gave, 4% are still in the negative. And, and let's be real, they gave us a good budget because they found a bunch of money. And so as we get into the next session with complexity being real important, I think that's going to be an area for us to focus and try and encourage and fight, to maintain, where we're at.
Absolutely.
So any resources we can get and help and guidance, I'm all in.
Yeah, I'd love to get with Steve and the rest of the board and start brainstorming.
Any other questions?
Thanks for your work.
Yeah, and real quick to close, Ann, next steps, we'll have summer study committees, so we don't know the topics yet, but those will likely come out in the next month or two, and we'll really just go from there.
Great. Well, thank you for all the work you do for us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, I guess that brings us to board comments. Steve?
No additional comments? Thank you.
After Justin's summary of, education bills that passed and those that died, I'd just like to thank everybody, teachers, parents, board members. I know we had people go down to Indianapolis. We had some teachers go. We had some students go. And I think people across the state were engaged in writing and contacting legislators and showing up. And I think it made a difference. But Justin's right. It's a preview. A lot of those topics are going to pop up again. So, it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. Yeah, but so we have to be prepared. But again, thanks to, everybody who advocated on behalf of public education.
Those are pretty much the words I was going to say, and thank everybody again. But I do want you to think about, as we're moving forward and we come with a message, to try to reach out to some 5 people that you know that don't know. I can't tell you, we've had a little bit of this conversation. If I walk down the street or even talk with somebody that I know, if I said the name Todd Houston, do you know who that is? I mean, these are people that are directly affecting our, what's going on here in our school districts. And if we don't know who's representing us down at the state, then at the state level, that's an important civic message that we need to get out there. So I'm encouraging everybody in this room who's an advocate, because you all are, to reach out to those neighbors and those 5 people and have them reach out from there. So take a small message that impacts you or your children or your grandchildren or your students and pass that along, and then have that message. That's the only way we can grow and build the advocacy. So I do encourage everybody to do that, as we move forward. So, and thank you. That's it.
I have no comments.
Raleigh?
I had the opportunity to volunteer at JA's Finance Park. I got to spend time with Southside High School freshmen. It was a great time, just helping the kids work on their budgets and do different things like that. Just wanted to encourage you, if you have the time and the desire to work with kids in some capacity, you don't have to make any long-term commitments, but JA needs volunteers. They always need volunteers, and it's just a great way to give back.
I'll echo that and reiterate the opportunity to sub the glorious, wonderful world of substitute teaching. So I feel bad for the Lane 7th graders 2 weeks ago and Northrop Algebra 2 class last week. I greatly appreciate their patience and understanding of me being their substitute. And I give apologies to whoever I'm going to get Wednesday. So, but I've been enjoying it. It's great to get to meet some of these kids, and it's a good opportunity. And so I encourage you, or anybody that's willing or interested, to take advantage of the opportunity. That's it.
Thank you. Dr. King?
April 20th, Ideal Graduate. If that's not on your calendar, please place that on your calendar for all board members. And there will be about 150 educators and hopefully about 150 of our community leaders from all stakeholders. So again, wanting to come to an agreement, what is the ideal graduate in Fort Wayne Community Schools and the greater Fort Wayne area, and then reverse engineer that all the way down to kindergarten. Also, this past Saturday, we had United Front. I thought that was an excellent program. I know Maria was there. Again, a great amount of work that has gone, that has taken place, but still a tremendous amount of work going forward. And how do we create, again, a shared humanity throughout our community? And of course, that definitely happens within our schools. So appreciate that effort. And again, lastly, but also sharing appreciation and gratitude for Justin's work, but also those state legislators that listened. And it was far different than what we anticipated. So thank you for those legislators that are listening to us and taking into the consideration, or taking into consideration what these bills would do for public or to public education. So both 2 and 4. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree on the legislative session. This is like probably the first time I actually felt like we accomplished something. So that was good that our letters, our emails, and they were heard. Our presence in the hall, even though we didn't get to speak, was noticed. So that does feel like we did accomplish something. But again, stay vigilant, because who knows what's going to be out there next session. And thank you to those legislators who listened to us and who read our emails and voted against those bills that we asked them to vote against. I just wanted to let you know that we talked about Forest Park and their playground, and now Irwin also had a fundraiser for their playground they're doing, and their goal was $15,000, and which they have already reached, and we'll get matching funds from the state for $15,000, but you can still contribute, because as you noticed from our Forest Park, it was $150,000, so their $30,000 is not going to do everything they want to do, so you can still donate if you wish. It's the same website that Forest Park used, the patronicity.com, and just go on there and look for Irwin Elementary, and you can donate to them. And the PTA person that I talked to said, this playground will be open to the community, and many of our playgrounds are on our elementary schools that have the playgrounds. The community also has access to those. Also, Southside High School will be, the alumni as well as students and some elementary students will be putting on the Music Man this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That sounds kind of exciting to see some of the alumni out there performing. You can get tickets at ticketspicket.com. Just look for Southside, and you can buy your tickets online.
Raleigh, are you performing?
No, I'm helping with some setup. I'm not getting on stage.
No singing and dancing? And let's see, I think that's it. We did briefly speak to the presidents of the neighborhood associations. Can't think of that place we went to.
Citizen Square?
Citizen Square, thank you. But we do have our dog and pony show ready to go if any organization would like to hear. It's mostly to talk about some of the things that we're doing right now, like Electric Works and our 3DE and things like that. We want to get that out there to people in our community, whether they have students or not. So if you know of any organization, clubs, anything that wants to hear us, we'd be thrilled to present. We can do 10 minutes, we can do an hour, so whatever you're looking for. So I believe that's all I have for this evening. So.
Move adjourn.
Do we have a second? All right, thank you, Noah. Thank you. Is that Jennifer?
Nope, Julie.
Julie? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and I believe we have one speaker.